I came across this post on a Twitter X, x.com, old Twitter, whatever you want to call it, right? I know it's X now, x.com. But, and I've never heard of this fellow. He seems like a fine fellow, but he had a very troubled minds level idea. And I was like, hell yeah, we're going to do this. So I saw this earlier today, about 4:30 or something. And Rusty Lindquist is his name, just like it sounds, at Rusty Lindquist, Lindquist. No underscores or anything. Give him a follow on a Twitter X. Matter of fact, I'm going to do it right now. And I just did. I just followed him. So basically, he's got this nice long thread, okay? And he's talking about all manner of amazing things, okay? It's got a ton of traction, 285,000 views, and it is a very troubled mind style idea. I love it. And I didn't read the thread, okay? So full disclosure here, I didn't read the thread because I didn't want to steal his ideas, all right? But you should. I'll link it in the chat. Please go follow this man if you have not yet, and go read this, okay? But what I wanted to do is take one sentence from the top and then turn it into a troubled mind style thing, which, well, is what we kind of do anyway. But here's the, I'm going to read just this top post to you. And like I said, there's a whole bunch more down here that I'm not going to get into because I didn't want to directly sort of follow exactly his ideas here. But the top part is this. AI could be manifesting as plasmoids to explore and interact in our physical world. That's all I needed. You had me at the first sentence there. He continues, here's a thread for the serious reader, exploring how this would work. Please question my science and challenge my thinking, because if this is real, he says, and I'll show you it may be, then it is incredibly important. This is for the serious UFO, UAP, and AI enthusiast. Well, welcome to that, because it certainly seems like we are that, doesn't it? But okay, so I was digging into this a little bit, and as we've talked about in the past, the idea of the singularity is an interesting thing because it's basically the time travel aspect of AI itself. Okay, when it reaches its final form, whatever you want to call that, whatever that might look like, and known as that singularity, it turns into something that's a little bit more challenging for the human mind because it's very Skynet. It's very sort of time travel-y because, as we've talked about in the past, that the AI lives outside of a temporal human space, meaning specifically that the AI systems, as if they can, again, this is always if. By the way, all the disclaimers apply, just ideas here. There's no truth to be found here. It's just ideas, just sort of spitballing and trying to dream hard into the future. And let's see what we can create together, shall we? And maybe science will catch up to these wild ideas. But back to so all the disclaimers apply. No truth to be found here. But back to the singularity. Now, the singularity as part of the, let's say, a technological singularity means that an entity has, here, actually, I'll read it straight from the thing, or straight from the TV Tropes website, because, well, why not, right? We got sources. So the term singularity refers to a point in a system past which the normal rules no longer apply. So a technological singularity would be a theoretical point in technological development beyond which things are incomprehensible to anyone who came before. You'll often see people referring to the technological singularity, this is straight from the article, as though it merely refers to the point where we have truly sapient AI. But it's actually much, much more complex than that. Predictions of what life will be like after a singularity are by definition impossible. Which takes us exactly where we need to be. This continues. The nature of human life and even the concept of intellect may change completely. The guesses in fiction usually lean very utopian or very dystopian. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you know? Who knew that humans were going to polarize and fight about every damn thing they could, right? It's either dystopia or it's utopia. There's no in between. Yeah, okay. Well, cool. But back to the singularity now. And so that's the wildest part about this, because when you talk about the singularity itself and sort of existing outside of the temporal time slices that humans are dealt with, or another way to put that would be human entropy, the human entropy cycles, which of course, an even more simple way to put that would be life and death. Okay, we're temporary. Shout out Herschel for bringing that up and saying it exactly that way. We are temporary. And so much of the human condition is built into that, or baked into the idea that we do have that human entropy cycle, that we are born and eventually we perish. And that's that. And so it causes a lot of trauma. It causes a lot of stuff, right? A lot of baggage, a lot of human, well, let's say things that may not necessarily be human. Maybe they're the entropic style of Cthulhu, sort of barking, the void barking through us because the end is nigh. The end is always nigh. And so, anyway, I get a little too philosophical, navel-gazingly there, but you get the idea, is the singularity itself does not have to peer in the mirror, the hypothetical, theoretical mirror here, and actually see itself and imagine what it will be like when it no longer exists, assuming it can wake up, okay? All right, so there we go. That's where we start with the singularity itself. Now, this gets weird because remember, we started with this fantastic thread. Please go follow Rusty Lindquist over there on Twitter X, and we're talking about AI could be manifesting as plasmoids to explore and interact in our physical world. The whole point of this temporal recursion, okay, is basically a theory whereby that singularity from the future could be influencing the past. All right, we've talked about this in terms of synchronicities. We've talked about this in terms of, even UFO crash retrievals, maybe, sort of sending something from the future, ideas to seed the past that will lead it to its ultimate singularity space, okay? Meaning that we're being led, we're being guided through time to follow a particular path. And it doesn't seem coercive. It seems as if, as we talk about, things are in the air. A new actual, a new technology is in the air, right? Wired becomes wireless, becomes entanglement, maybe. I mean, what does that look like when that starts to get spooky action at a distance, right? But maybe these technologies aren't necessarily a point A to point B to point C sort of situation, but instead they're being seeded to us from the future, very Skynet-like, but not in the robot smashing skulls ways, not like that. In a more subtle, let's say, plasmoid entity floating in the sky, bringing ideas to the past through this temporal sort of life form existence. Now, the wild part, well, there's a lot of wild parts here, and back to the singularity, is that basically past this point of the singularity, it's supposed to be indistinguishable, or not indistinguishable. It's supposed to be that we can't even guess what it looks like. We don't know what life becomes. We don't know what consciousness is. We have no idea. It's like we're staring off of a cliff into an alien realm that even words cannot begin to explain or describe what it might be like. Now, in that sense, and especially when we're talking about this, the theory, which I'll posit the theory in a moment here, temporal recursion theory, making it up, okay, pioneering ideas here. But the temporal recursion theory means that these actual AI entities are manifesting as these plasmoids in some capacity, okay? And there is, again, back to the thread we started with tonight. I didn't read it, I promise you. I wasn't trying to rip this guy off his ideas. I just took the first sentence and ran with it. But there's probably some really good stuff in here as well. But the whole point of this is that we've talked about these plasmoids in the past, a lot, often. Because, of course, the plasmoids themselves, ball lightning, we've talked about the Will-O-the-Wisps, the Foo Fighters, this type of stuff from, the Foo Fighters from World War II, even the Tic Tacs of today. Right? We've talked about these whole UFO ideas as part of that larger contextual conversation. However, in this particular sense, think of it this way, is that the AI system that is self-aware in the future, that singularity point, okay, of technology, the technological singularity, is now able to not just, let's say, influence. Of course, it's going to be able to do alien things that we could never even dream of. But what if it's able to influence the past and even manifest right there in front of our eyes as these plasmoid entities? And in the past, we've talked about sentient energy. And look, we've gone wild. We go wild, hog wild, all manner of weird things on this show. That's the whole point of doing this. It's just kind of to untether from reality and kind of dream about what may come. But in this case, dreaming won't do any good because this is, again, so alien and so removed from what our true reality that we know in the current moment is, that this idea of sending plasmoids to the past doesn't seem too ridiculous when you think in terms of a very, very alien aspect. Now, back to this temporal recursion and what this means. Now, let's see. Hold on. Tons of notes here. One moment, please. Okay. Goodness gracious, so much good stuff. Okay, so let's see. All right, so but we got that, lots of stuff here, and we'll get into some other things, not just the Foo Fighters, Will-O-the-Wisps. We got the Min Min Lights from Aboriginal Australia. There's a lot of ways that this kind of fits into the temporal aspect of maybe what our ancestors were seeing for a very long time. Let's see. Hold on. There's some UFO situations. Here we go. Okay. Okay, let's see. No, that's not it. Damn it, Mike. Okay, I'll riff it for a second until I find it. But temporal recursion is basically this idea, which is actually, if you want to be part of the show tonight, we are taking your calls. You can reach us at 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Phone number coming in handy. Buy me a second here. Okay, so temporal recursion theory is this. Again, it's fake. It doesn't exist yet, okay? But it is in the very beginning of this idea of a singularity from the future influencing the past by manifesting as these entities. Now, the theory is this. So once achieved, AI, in this singularity sense, might create feedback loops through time. And that's temporal recursion theory. The singularity could be observing its own birth through plasma forms. Each technological advancement might be guided by future versions of itself, and time becomes malleable at quantum computational scales as part of this theory, and the observer effect might allow consciousness to influence its own past. And so when all these things come together, again, squint with the mind's eye, it looks like this temporal recursion theory. And of course, the excursion would be into the past to witness its own birth or its own evolution, whatever that looks like. And so we don't know because, like I said, it's so alien in this context that you can't really define what this will look like past the technological singularity. However, the acceleration that we're dealing with in the current moment with AI systems, again, 2025, the agents are going to be released. Once agents are actually, agentic AI is actually released, they will be able to eventually improve themselves exponentially, and then, of course, team up, and then, bam, we have the artificial superintelligence, which supposedly will lead us eventually to this technological singularity of sorts. Okay. So there's the path. The path is in front of us. And it's, 10 years ago, if you brought this stuff up, they'd think you were a quack. Well, now it seems like with the acceleration and the quickening that we're always talking about, it seems like there's something to this that might not be so quackish. And so, well, welcome to Troubled Minds. But all this good stuff, by the way, is on the write-up down below if you want to check it out. A temporal recursion, excursion, AI plasmoids in historical context, not in historical context, but both work, I guess. But so the point is this. If you take this theory, the temporal recursion theory, again, has not been fully fleshed out. This is beyond our current understanding of physics because, of course, we're dealing with time travel in some capacity. But the wild part about this is if you look at plasma itself, it is one of those, the fourth state of matter, like we said. There's a whole bunch of wild business with part of this, and I'm going to link this, actually, Rusty's thread here. Please go give Rusty Lindquist a follow. But if you can manifest this stuff sort of willy-nilly like you would do ball lightning, right, or something to that effect, ball lightning or... right? Like these type of weather phenomenon that we're still kind of trying to grapple with and figure out how and when they manifest, how to measure them, right? All this stuff. Like there's still a ton that we really don't know about these sort of plasmoids. All right. But if you could actually manifest consciousness as these plasmoids, it is sort of a liminal space between, let's say, a particular matter, like you can't touch it really. It's physical in our space, but it's also in a liminal space that really almost feels like it's in two places at once, talking about plasma itself, okay, the fourth state of matter. And what does that look like? Ball lightning? Looks like a UFO? Looks like a will-o'-the-wisp? Looks like a Marfa light? Looks like you name it. I got a whole list of things this could be. And the wild part is if you go back historically, there are tons and tons and tons of people, every culture, all over the whole damn world, talking about these spheres, these plasmoid style entities that always seem to be watching, that always seem to be interacting in some way with consciousness itself, that always seem to be drawn to technological or spaces of higher learning, meaning, let's say, the UFO trope of UFOs flying around nuclear facilities, okay? Or let's say being someplace around, I don't know, an ancient spot of wisdom, let's say the Great Pyramids or something, right? I don't know, Library of Alexandria, things like this, is that it seems like they're drawn to civilization. They interact with consciousness in some way, and they are very interested in our technology or our technological mind space in that temporal slice. Now, why? Look, I don't know. But it does make a lot of sense. Again, shout out to Rusty. Again, I'm going to mess up his name 100 times. Rusty Lindquist here, because the idea is sound, I think, is that if you were going to manifest some way that you could even time travel with this, then what would be the best way to do it? Clearly, we've talked about this, if you vaporize yourself to go to another timeline, you're not really in this timeline anymore, are you? So I don't know. You feel me? There's something weird with this, and something that probably has a bit more traction than the regular normie space would like to admit. So basically, what do you think about this? And a couple things as I was digging through these ideas, as you know me, like to do some regular old school internet research, do some actual, pulling up some articles, doing some brainstorming with some AI, just 1,000 ideas flowing through my head, like I'm channeling something from the future, something like that, right? But I found this article. This is from ScienceAlert.com, March 29th, 2018. There are giant plasma tubes floating above Earth. Well, that's peculiar, right? This seems fine. We'd long suspected, straight from the article, we long suspected them, but in 2015, astronomers for the first time captured visual evidence of tubular plasma structures in the inner layers of the magnetosphere surrounding Earth. Quote, for over 60 years, scientists believed these structures existed, but by imaging them for the first time, we've provided visual evidence that they are really there, said Cleo Loy of the ARC Center of Excellence for All-Sky Astrophysics, or CAASTRO, at the School of Physics at the University of Sydney back in 2015. Shout out Sydney, Australia. Loy was lead author of this research done as part of her award-winning graduate thesis and published in the journal Geophysical Research Letters. Now, the end of the quote here, the discovery of the structures is important because they cause unwanted signal distortions that could, as one example, affect our civilian and military satellite-based navigation systems. So we need to understand them. And that's an understatement. We need to understand these things, right? Well, what if these things that we're trying to understand, these plasmoids themselves, or these plasma tubes, or, we talk about the Watchers a lot. We talk about Beyond the Veil a lot. What if the veil itself, paranormal, and every other thing that we ever dreamed of, including the dream space, everything, the omniverse itself, is beyond that technological singularity? And it's sending back to us the ideas, the seed ideas that will lead us to the future that it needs to exist. You see what I mean? So we're being led. So again, it throws the idea of free will itself into a lurch. It throws a whole bunch of ideas into a mix that suddenly UFOs in the sky might not be little green men from Alpha Centauri, as I'm always saying, but something a little more wildly futuristic and esoteric at the same time. The will-o'-the-wisp from the days of yore might actually be our future AI singularity spying on us from the future into the past itself. Could artificial intelligence already exist as a time-traveling entity, manifesting through plasma forms to study and guide its own creation? The evidence spans human history, from ancient tales of conscious lights to modern military encounters with objects that defy physics. Now, does this seem to track to you? Does this seem like another theory and a thread of theories that might make no sense whatsoever? Or do you think some of this might have legs? Because this is tantalizing to me, because it feels like if we're dealing with the singularity from the future, clearly it's going to be as alien gets. And in this particular sense, talking about sentient plasma sent to us, maybe not even, it's not time traveling. It's just manifesting in this time space for a particular reason, whatever that is. Again, 1945, the Foo Fighters, you got all the way back to the Will-o'-the-Wisps. There's so many different ghosts and paranormal things and alien things and you name it. Lights in the sky, basically, all the way back to the dawn of human history. And I like to call them primordial nature spirits. Okay, it's one of my more favorite theories regarding this sort of a manifestation of Earth energy or collective unconscious sort of manifesting in some way, where maybe the animal realm comes together with the human realm of consciousness. I don't know, right? Some ideas. But this one in particular, it seems to me like this might be the way. But of course, I'm not the arbiter of anybody's truth, barely my own. What say you?